Hello and welcome to Procrastination Station. Procrastination as in procrastinating and that other thing that we all do. If you can put it together, then you're my people, and if you can't, perhaps click that next button. No shade. I'm your host Hannah, and I'm here to talk about self-sabotage in a way that invites all parts of us to come along for the journey. I'm here to lay out the setbacks and superpowers of self-sabotage in order to manage our limitations. Throughout the show, we'll discuss designing a life that works in your favor through sustainable creative practices. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you enjoyed today's topic. Cool beans. Amazing. So, do you feel like ready and prepared for this topic? Do you have any questions or anything before we get started?
No questions. I have my notes pulled up. I think it's going to be a fun conversation. It's not something that I generally talk about on these types of forums, I guess.
Yeah. I actually, one thing that I really like to do with my podcast is like really get in touch with the human behind business. I feel like a lot of the time in business we're asked to talk about like how do you make your dreams come true and what's the hustle like and you know all of that sort of stuff, and that's great, but there's so much of that out there and we're still human beings, and I really like to touch into the human side of all of it because it's just also very important. Knowing how to take care of yourself so that you can show up for others is just like a huge thing that I've been working on learning, and it's an ever-evolving process as well that, you know, nobody's perfect at it. So I feel like insomnia is just something I've struggled with since I was literally a baby. So it's all good though. It's something else I would really like to touch on throughout this episode is like the plus side as well. Like I feel like a lot of people that are like, oh, insomnia, that sucks. And it does suck. Like it's not a fun thing, but yeah, it's just like there's positives that come to it as well. I can get a lot of processing time and creativity and stuff like that. So
yeah, I'm interested to hear about the positives, and excited to talk about this because so I've been on a few of these specifically entrepreneur-centered podcasts, and the topic of self-care comes up a lot. But I feel like this is a lot more specific and also very relevant to me because I've always had a very bad relationship with sleep. So
hi there, welcome to Procrastination Station. My name is Hannah, as always, and I have a really special guest for you today. My friend Monique here. We're going to be talking about insomnia and overworking and how that pertains to entrepreneurship. Both of us have had a struggle when it comes to our relationships with sleep for a very, very long time. So I'm really excited to pick her brain and also share some insights that I have around this topic. I would love to now give Monique a moment to introduce herself and her business and just anything she'd like to share.
Yeah. Hey, Anna. Okay, so hey, everybody. My name is Monique, and I'm the founder of Dom Productions, Inc. We're a content production agency located in Toronto, and we specialize specifically in photography and video production for brands, businesses, and entrepreneurs. And this comes in the form of team headshots, branding photography, promotional videos, course production, and a lot of event coverage for different businesses. And then on top of that, we just acquired a new business, a photo studio and event rental space. And that is also located in Toronto and available not only for us to shoot our clients in, but also for other people to rent out for their specific needs, whether that be creating content or, you know, hosting small events too. It's a beautiful 1,200 square foot space. And yeah, check out thestew.ca if you're interested in learning more.
That's amazing. Is that like stew, like STEW?
STU.
Cool.
The stew. Yeah, .ca.
I love to hear that. That's so fantastic. I knew about your Dom production studio, but I didn't know about the content creation studio, like where people can come and shoot their content. Is that the sense that I'm getting? That's really awesome.
Yeah, it's still a fairly new business for us. So yeah, everybody's used to us being the photo and video people, but now we actually have a physical location, which is awesome.
Yeah, that is really awesome. Definitely making big moves in the business, and I really love to hear that. I would also really love to ask, can you repeat where anybody listening where they can find you if they have questions, feedback, concerns, comments, anything, or if they would like to work with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to work with us, if you have a photography or video project in mind for your business or brand, or you're just an entrepreneur looking for some headshots, so you can reach out to us. domproductions.ca is our website. It's also our Instagram handle, and you can find us on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn, Monique Hutson. And you can also follow our studio page, thestu.ca. That's our website and our Instagram. You can rent
Beauty.
it out for photo shoots, video shoots, and events, small events.
Now, in terms of our topic today with insomnia and overworking, I would love to know first, what does insomnia look like for you? What is it?
So I've never been clinically diagnosed with insomnia, but I've had a horrible relationship with sleep, I think, my entire life. I think I remember as far back as when I was, I think, 6 years old. And my parents, we were driving home from somewhere, and I was always known as the one who just like avoided sleep at all costs. And I think I was falling asleep in the back seat, and my parents were like, "Hey, are you sleeping right now?" And I just like jumped up. I'm like, "No, no, I'm resting, sleeping. I'm not sleeping." So to this day, they still make fun of me, and they're like, "Oh, are you resting, sleeping? Is that what's happening right now?" And I think things have gotten progressively worse, especially with having a business, because as an entrepreneur, especially in those beginning stages, you're in charge of all the different things, and so much responsibility falls on you. So to make up for that, you end up not taking care of yourself the way you probably should be. So insomnia, I'm not sure what your experience has been with it specifically, and if it's any different from me, I guess just avoiding sleep in general.
And it doesn't differ at all, actually. It's very,
Okay.
very similar. When I was, so my mom, she calls it sleep procrastination. My dad, he does the same thing. And like in my adult life, a lot of the time, sleep procrastination can look like having a busy day where there's a lot of people who need you and ask your attention. And then in the evening, that's the time when like everyone else is asleep. I can be 100% me and nobody is asking anything of me. And then that's when I can like, dive into creative hobbies and journal and like just do the things that I love to do uninterrupted. But same as you, it started when I was very, very young. I actually talked to my mom about this recently, and I've had sleep issues for like legitimately my entire life. And it's really funny. My parents, they also make fun of me a little bit for when I was a kid, I got severe migraines. And so because of that, I would take a lot of naps. And I mean, I still get migraines and I still take naps. And there was one time in particular where I took a nap and then I ended up staying awake. I was maybe in like grade 3, grade 4 at most. And then I heard my dad wake up to get ready for work. And then I said, "Dad, is it morning?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I was like, "I'm never taking a nap again." And then that's what they make fun of me for. They're like, "Okay." Yeah, right.
So you're a nap person.
I am totally a nap person. Some people, they can't nap. I love naps. Little cat naps, long naps, short naps, all of them are golden.
I'm
But it
so
does.
jealous, or I'm so envious of that, because I despise naps. I feel anytime that I take a nap during the day, when I wake up, it doesn't matter how short, how long, I feel like I've been run over by a truck after,
Yeah,
and it's hard for me to continue with my day.
I 100% get that too. I'll admit, sometimes when I take a nap, I also feel like I've been run over by a truck, but I also like kind of like that feeling sometimes. I don't know why. We're just different people, but like for me, it does tend to wear off. Where I'll take a nap and then I need a few moments to like collect myself, feel like a human again, and then I can pick up from where I was. But yeah, it takes me a minute. And also too, I want to mention, it's okay if you haven't been clinically diagnosed. If you just Google what insomnia is, it says sleep troubles, but it's not really something that like I think you need a clinician to diagnose. If you have sleep troubles, you can call it insomnia. That's kind of a colloquial term for sleep problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know a lot of people use it just in casual conversation, but
Yeah.
I did meet somebody a while back who was like was given a diagnosis of insomnia. I'm like, that is wild.
Yeah, very intense. I feel like
Yeah.
something else we can make a distinction between is that there's a scale of insomnia where like there's
Good point.
definitely some people where, you know, they go through like bouts of insomnia where it's like if they're stressed out in their life, then their sleep is the first thing to go, and it might last 2 weeks, and then they get over it, and then back to the status quo. And then there's other people where it's like every night, no matter what they do, they really, really struggle. And then other people, maybe it's just like one night a year, they just can't fall asleep. Like, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
we can use insomnia to describe all of those things. However, I think it's also important when somebody is looking into their own insomnia that they can communicate that with their support systems and just really express how it impacts them and to what degree they experience it. And if any listeners feel that they need to get a diagnosis to help them with that, like I always say, seek a doctor. I am not a doctor. We are not doctors. We are not experts. We're just humans who have a human experience. So, second question, what does overworking look like for you?
My agenda currently, what my agenda looks like in my calendar. I think it's putting too many expectations on yourself.
Yeah.
As I mentioned before, as entrepreneurs, especially in those beginning stages, and I feel like I'm kind of in those beginning stages again with the new studio, you feel very, very responsible to make things happen immediately. Actually, somebody reminded me recently that I need to enjoy the journey. So it's okay to like slow down and like not be an overnight success. But anyways, I digress. When you are putting too much pressure on yourself to do so many things to the point where your basic needs, like for example, sleep, or making sure that you're taking care of your nutrition, or get being active, even making sure that like you look good and feel good, just all of that gets put on the back burner.
Absolutely, it does. I 100% agree with you. I feel like the main thing that stuck out to me is like the expectation of self. What's overworking for one person might not necessarily look the same as what's overworking for another. We all have different tolerances for different schedules. However, the expectations that we have of ourselves to just like wake up and be successful tomorrow and to just like pack our schedule so full with so many different things that we forget to just be, like not do, but just be. To me, that's what overworking looks like, and that's why I sort of tied these two topics together, is because for myself, my insomnia can be very triggered by overworking. If I'm not spending any time throughout the day just to be myself, then I still take that time for myself in the evening, and that's where I find that my insomnia can serve me in a way where it's like I actually do get time to just be. Like nobody's asking of me, nobody's expecting of me. I can just chill. And let me know if you resonate with this or if you have a different experience. But for myself, I find I kind of hit a wall at a certain point in the evening where I struggle to think about businessy things, or not even struggle to think about it, but more so struggle to do quality work towards it. So when I do have insomnia, I'll try like painting or crochet or like something that I just thoroughly enjoy that's not business related. Do you find yourself working into the night?
Yeah, I actually do most of my, well, okay, sorry. When I am experiencing those times where I'm avoiding sleep, yes, I think I do better quality work at night. I don't know, because I'm like, it's the, what's that term, where like you're under fire, like I feel like my brain is racing and like all the ideas are coming to me, and there's less distractions from the day. Nobody's calling you, nobody's emailing you, it's dark out, there's no traffic, there's no noise. So I get into that zone where I'm able to put all my focus and all my attention, all my ideas into my work. So it tends to be better quality work, even though I am insanely tired. I find sometimes I'll even push through. There will be like maybe about an hour where I'm like bucking and my head wants to fall onto the keyboard, but then I just need to push through that. This sounds horrible, but like I just need to push through that time, and then it will get to like maybe the 3-4 o'clock hour, and I'm like, yep, we are zoned in. Let's go.
That's amazing. Well, I do just want to say, anybody listening, this is not us advocating for insomnia. It's its own struggle. However, I also want to admit that I'm honestly a little bit jealous because I wish I could work throughout the night. That's what I used to do when I was in high school. I would just wait until the day before my essay was due and then just hammer it out all through the night, stay up until it's finished. And I did great in school. Like I always got good grades even when I would procrastinate.
Right? Same here.
Yeah, and it's like something about lighting that fire. I think you mentioned that, where it's like this is due like right now and I don't have time to just like procrastinate further. It has to be done. And then like it would just be a banger every time. So
yeah, something about the time crunch and just the time crunch lighting a fire under your butt is what I wanted to say before.
Yeah.
That just makes you like it's all or nothing. Like throw out your Hail Marys. We gotta get this done. And even to this day, even if it's the due date for whatever I'm working on, even if that's not, the next day or imminent, I still feel that pressure to get stuff done before my day ends, aka whenever I do decide to go to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also really funny. Like, you know how sometimes people like it'll be 12 p.m. and then I'll be like, oops, I meant 12 a.m. And then they switch to like it's tomorrow now. I didn't get that, Jean. Like for me, it's tomorrow after I go to bed and wake up. Like
like at midnight.
Yeah, like midnight doesn't switch to the next day. It's still today, not tomorrow.
Exactly. So all the things that are on my to-do list for the day, even if it's like 2 a.m. the next day and I'm still working on it, like it's still my day.
Yeah, it's still
my
today.
Day ends when I finally do go to bed.
That's really funny. Okay, so for our first topic, working into the night, what is the lifestyle exactly of a night owl? What does your like morning hours and day hours look like compared to your evening hours?
I can give you the healthy version and then the sleep procrastination, sleep revenge, insomnia version.
I'd love to hear both.
Overworking version. So the healthy version, like when I have all my ducks in a row and I'm following a routine, at the end of the day, I am a routine girly. But being an entrepreneur is kind of like challenge that, and putting all those heavy expectations on myself has challenged that. But my ideal routine, my healthy routine, is during the day, I have set hours for meetings, client calls, podcast interviews, and I set aside time for that, specific hours in the day, and then also time for actual production work, editing, time for marketing and admin. Also have specific days when I'm going to be out on the road shooting.
Right.
I try to end my days around 5:30, so that way I give myself enough time to be at the gym for 6:30. In an ideal world, gym means end of the day.
Love that.
And I like having that breakup, because something about like whenever I go to the gym, it's like I put so much, I exert so much energy, so that by the time I get home, I'm tired. I don't even want to see work. I just need to take a shower, eat my dinner, and just wind down for the night. And then I'm in my bed by midnight. So that's the healthy version. However, I tend to go through these waves of like, we'll do the healthy routine, we'll stick with that for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden, I don't know if you experience waves in your business, but we have like peak seasons, slower seasons. The peak seasons, when I have back-to-back client meetings and I'm not setting boundaries because all these projects are coming my way and I just want to make the money because I know slow season is around the corner.
Yeah.
That's when you start seeing I'm going to bed at 3, 4 a.m. because I'm trying to finish client projects. Even though I did go to the gym,
Yeah.
I make sure that that's a staple, but like I'll still come home and I'll force myself to keep working throughout the night. And I'm like drinking coffee and drinking green tea, and but also still getting some of my best ideas during that time. Like I mentioned before, the less distractions, the kind of better. And I like watching my TV shows as I'm like, and having all my LED lights on, and I don't know, it's a vibe for sure.
It is a vibe. It is
Yeah.
absolutely a vibe. And I love that vibe of just like low light, low sensory input, just like
Mm-hmm.
get it all out.
Yeah. I get my 2:30 a.m. snack.
Yeah.
Make
Love the
myself a
bedtime
little sandwich. Yeah.
Jamaican patties at bedtime with a little bit of cheese and spicy mayo. Chef's kiss. It's
Oh, now I'm craving that.
Gotta get you some. Yeah, I feel like I definitely also experience like the peaks and valleys of busy season versus not busy season. And that's something that I actually really want to break through. Like, we don't have back to school businesses. So there's no real reason, at least in my eyes and in my business, why I should have a busy season and a slow season. I want to have just like that steady trickle.
Mm-hmm.
And then it does just kind of make me think about like, is there ways that I can have this steady trickle where it's like I get one client at a time and they come in and they get onboarded and I do some of their work and another one is on its way, and then as soon as I feel like I've reached a completion point with that client, then the next one comes and gets onboarded. If it were just like a nice smooth and steady flow, that would be ideal. And then I also ask myself, is there something that I'm putting out into the world that almost asks this energy to come in, like sort of manifesting, you get what you give kind of ideas? Because I think there's a lot of patterns in my own life of all or nothing. I love that you use that phrase, where sometimes I do just kind of hit a wall and it's like, can't do nothing. And it's just like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, but then there's other times where I can really hustle and I can really put my nose to the grindstone and get so much work done, far beyond what I could even imagine possible in the times when I'm just like flat resting.
It's funny that you bring that up, the whole energy thing, because I had that discussion recently. So I've been working with a financial coach or money mindset coach, she calls herself. Definitely should, I don't know, can I shout out people here?
Oh,
But
please do.
her business name is Mintworthy. Her name's Vanessa.
Cool. I like
And
that name. Mint money. Like, that's awesome.
yeah, so she's all about like financial abundance, and like the energy that you put out there is the energy that you receive, and don't come from like a place of scarcity, because that's when you're gonna start experiencing that like, oh my god, it's like slow season, I'm freaking out, like
Yeah.
let me market like and the thing is too, it's like you'll have your slow seasons. Well, I know for me, slow seasons come and then I get like really freaked out, and then I end up working even harder just to bring in new clients.
Yeah.
I'm trying to take this approach now where it's not coming from a scarcity mindset, but it's just like, okay, we are taking time for ourselves, A, B, because the busy season will come and we need to understand that. And then taking time to market, but I tend to like overdo it during those times where I am trying to like do all the other things because I don't have as many client projects going on. And then another thing that I thought of when you just talked about having clients lined up, there's another, what's her name? Jess Haney.
Yeah, I've heard of her as well.
Okay, so she has this thing called the one client method, and well, I know for me, because we're an agency, like we're usually working on like, we usually have about like 20-ish on average active projects at a time.
That's awesome.
So that's just like the name of the game, and I actually do enjoy that. But for those who like being able to put their all into one project at a time and make sure that like, you know, things are consistent and lined up throughout the year, and they're not like trying to go through these busy seasons and then like chasing clients and then go through the busy seasons again and then chase more clients. Definitely would check her out, even though she is she specializes in copywriting.
Right on.
She does have this method, and I heard that it's amazing.
Yeah, I've heard of that as well, of like, you know what would be like the most baller move for my own business? It's having a wait list. Like, I would freaking love that. But I also see what you're saying in terms of like the energy work that comes with having a slow season versus a busy season, of like just trusting that you have enough to cover your expenses in the meantime, that your people on your team, they're paid, they're, you know, they're set up for success as well, and that like money comes, money flows, it's around the corner, it's going to come back, and that like that chasing energy kind of takes you out of that attraction energy of just like chilling, I know it's gonna come, and then it does, instead of like, oh my god, I'm in scarcity, I'm in lack, I need it, like, and then it just like pushes it even farther away. I find specifically in sales, like if you're in a space of desperation, people can really feel that. They smell it, and it's like, especially like if you are a little bit desperate, like we can be realistic here, then like it can be very, very challenging to overcome that barrier to just be calm and just let it flow and just have your sales conversations without having like the like, so are you gonna buy? You gonna buy now? Like tomorrow? When are you paying me? You really pick up on that energy. Yeah, that's super duper interesting. I would love to know a little bit more about like if you are working into the night and like you go to the gym, you still push yourself to work throughout the night. Do you have any time during like the morning or like early hours where your expectation of yourself is like, we're just going to be Monique right now, like no business time?
Yeah, good question, because now that I'm thinking about it, I'm not very productive in the morning. I really need I need to ramp up because I exert so much energy in the evening. So I tend to move a little bit slower, move a lot slower during the morning, let's be real. And it's probably because of the lack of the sleep. So what I like to do, because I know this of myself, I can't just, oh my gosh, my mom stresses me. My mom works from home. I live with my parents. So like my mom will literally roll out of bed and jump onto her laptop because it's at her like office is the bedroom next door to hers. It's like, and I'm like, sis, can you brush your teeth, please? And like, can you just like get a coffee? Like, let's change out our pajamas. No, it stresses me out. Or like she'll get a work call and just like jump out of her sleep and just be on the call like she was up for this. She was doing work for the past 6 hours. Like she's just ready to go like that. I could never. So I have a little bit of a morning routine. There's some days where like I have to push myself because I know, something has to be done early in the morning. But for the most part, I tend to wake up, I get my coffee, I like make up my bed, do the skincare routine, get dressed, and I play Sudoku. Like I have a physical book.
Oh, I love that. Like an old grandma. I love that.
Come for me, yes. Like a little grandma. I have my Sudoku book. Yeah. And I finished one puzzle. I put on my podcast. I love listening to Watch What Crappens. It's a Bravo reality TV show podcast. They recap episodes. So I'll just throw that on and I do my one Sudoku puzzle. And maybe that takes me like 20, 25 minutes. And then I'm like, okay, I can do this now. Make my breakfast, and then I start checking my emails. So that's what my mornings generally look like. And that's, I would say, the only time that I truly make sure that I take for myself outside of going to the gym in the evening.
Yeah, I think that's perfect though. I'm 100% team slow morning. Like, so little personal story. When I first started my business, I was like very strict on my morning routine, where it's like, I've got to wake up and do this shit. Like, I'm going to wake up right away. I'm going to, like, sort of like your mom type of vibes. Like, I'm just going to roll out of bed, get on my laptop, get this shit done. And then it's not that I don't have the opportunity, it's that I change my mind about whether or not that's what I want. So now, similar vibes, I'll wake up, I'll play maybe 20 minutes on a phone game, I'll get some coffee, make some breakfast, and then I'll get to it. Same thing that you said as well, where if it's like, I do these accountability meetings with a group of people, and that's on Monday morning at 9 a.m. So those mornings I typically like get quicker to it. However, I noticed when I was transitioning from how I used to be with rolling out of bed and doing the thing, I would wake up super duper anxious in the times when that was not possible. Like, there was one time where I slept over at my boyfriend's and we woke up and I was just like, I have so much shit to do. Why are you like having a slow morning? Like, I just got really angry, like irrationally angry, and like he was like, dude, like, why are you anxious right now? Like, it's Saturday, like we don't have anything to do. It's like, just chill. And then like I have noticed that since changing my those are loud bees.
Oh, really? You heard that? Wow.
It's so loud. It's okay. We'll just let them pass. They're gone now.
They're gone, yeah.
That's okay. Welcome to Canada. Anyway, like since doing more of a slow morning, now I have the opportunity to like go have a conversation with my grandmother, or like roll out of bed slower and actually feed myself breakfast, not just bulldoze through it. And like I wake up so much more calm. And that's just really, really lovely for me, because I want to start the day off on the right foot. I want to be able to like show up as the best version of myself for my business, for my people, for, just life. And I can't do that if I expect myself to just like always be like a machine, like productive as if I were a machine. I'm not a machine, I'm a person.
Yeah, it's funny because the phrase I want to use is just like firing off on all engines.
Yeah.
All of a sudden I turned into an analogy machine here. But like, yeah, as you're speaking, it's like when you do that to yourself, you realize like we are just turning on all senses and just being overstimulated first thing in the morning. So it makes sense why you would be so anxious. But question for you, what's your relationship like with your phone? Because you mentioned that you would play a game on your phone in the morning. So for me, my phone I keep on my desk in my bedroom, away from my bed. I have my alarm that goes off, and that means that I have to like physically get up and turn it off. But once I turn it off, like I start my morning routine and everything, and I just don't touch my phone. And I actually have do not disturb turned on until 9 a.m. So that like I'm not getting notifications or anything. I'm not doom scrolling in my bed, or just like getting distracted and starting to fire off those senses. Yeah. But what's your relationship like with your phone?
No, that's such an interesting question. I will admit that like I have seasons with it where I have a definitely unhealthy relationship with my phone, and then I have other seasons where I have more boundaries. So I do have rules for myself where like I don't like to answer messages right away. So if I do want to play like a little, I like this game. It's got lots of dragons, and it's very low sensory input, where it's like you're just like collecting coins and organizing, and it's like it's so random and nerdy, but it's not like a shooting adventure or like boom 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 kind of game. It's like just very chill. However, I also believe that like blue light, like screen time, is definitely very impactful when it comes to sleep. So like I do try to catch it when I start being too attached to my phone. Like similarly, like if I need to go on a bit of a cleanse from it, I'll put it on my desk next to my bed. And I have an actual like physical alarm clock. Like
old school, love it.
Yeah. But it's like kind of close to my bed, and I also like I use that too. I have to get up to turn it off. So if my phone's put away, like even in a drawer or something, it doesn't really impact me. But yeah, I like that's an interesting question, because like it definitely peaks and
impacts
valleys.
your sleep.
Yeah, that too. Very much that too.
Because I know for a lot of people, even outside of entrepreneurs, our phone is one of the biggest reasons why a lot of people end up losing sleep.
Absolutely. There's times where like doom scrolling, like I do my absolute best not to do that, but if I'm gonna have a sleepless night, I'm probably doom scrolling, and it's like so unhealthy. And when you're doing it, it's like you become a zombie where you're just like, I'm not a person right now. Like me and my phone are one. And it's terrible.
Yeah, absolutely. I tried to avoid that, and I think my especially my Instagram algorithm lately, it's just been so good at sucking me in. Like I will literally just open up Instagram to search for something specific. I end up on the explore page, and like half an hour later, especially on the weekends when I know I don't have to like do meetings and stuff like that, like my alarm will go off and I'm like, okay, I can go back into bed and spend a little bit more time and rot here. But then I'm like going through my phone for half an hour and I'm like, what did I feel bad about myself.
Yeah. It's terrible.
I'm like, what did I really accomplish here? And this is not to, you know, rain on anybody's parade. Like I know so many people who do the same thing. It's just like, I don't know, I just don't feel accomplished. Like I don't feel specifically good. Like it hasn't contributed anything to my day. Yeah.
Absolutely. I 100% get what you're saying. And like, I find that a lot of the social media algorithm is fed by rage bait. And like I try to curate my social media feed of like not engaging with something that makes me angry. And like I do have a really beautiful feed where like it's a lot of crafts and business owners and just like fashion and just like really just nice things. I try not to engage at all with things that make me feel any type of way. But even still, it's like I wonder if subconsciously there's like a level of comparison of like, oh my God, I love those shoes. I wish I could have those shoes. Or like, I wish I had the time to make these beautiful projects that this person is building a business off of. And like, just like that subconscious comparison. And like that can be super duper toxic. When I do play my little phone games, I try not to do any text messages or Instagram or anything like that before I've started my day. I still might, you know, go on my phone like at some point for a little breaky poo, but I try not to just like start off my day. And when I do end off my day that way, I like just always feel terrible about it. So I try to be very cognizant of that. But yeah, it's a very human trait that like it's so unnatural to us. We never had this like what 50 years ago. And like I just
50 years ago, think of even like 15 years ago.
Yeah, no kidding. And it's like it just really makes me think about the way as humans will adapt to this because it's not going away. But I do think that it's important to like be aware of screen time. Like I actually, when I was a kid, I used to play my Game Boy SP. Like my mom would be like, "Are you sleeping?" I'm like, "Totally."
You're under the bed. You're under the covers.
100%. So like the screen addictions, like they can start pretty young. I'm like the cusp of Gen Z and millennial, and like there was no such thing as cell phones when you were a kid as when I was a kid, and I imagine you were the same. But these days it gets younger and younger and younger, and that's just crazy to me. But I agree, 100% impacts sleep.
We're gonna start sounding like old people, but yeah, like it's
I feel
insane.
like you and your Sudoku, me and my crochet, like
these kids and their phones these days, and yeah. And it's interesting to see the younger generation and how they navigate that as well, because I feel like we have the older generations, like we have put a lot of emphasis on like lowering your decreasing your screen time and like touching grass. I hate using that phrase, but like and then I see people like my sister. My sister will be on TikTok for hours and not move. And let me stop being old man yells at cloud. I'm just gonna end it there.
That's
screen time should be monitored for sure.
Yeah, monitor to the individual. Like I also find too, like for like having a generally digital business, like mine's 100% digital. I believe yours is pretty up there as well with digital. And like, I think when your work requires you to be on screens all the time, that it especially becomes like you become especially aware of how it can impact your mind and your vision and your sleep and all these things. Like,
and then it kind of plays into the whole sleep revenge thing too, because like if you're overworking during the day, this happens to me quite a bit where I'm like, okay, you're going to be in bed by 12, but then I'm like, oh, but I haven't been on Instagram that much today, so let's just see what's going on. Let's answer all the DMs from your friends. Let's look at all the like the 80 reels that your group chat sent to you today. And then I'm on there and all of a sudden, like, I'm on Temu looking at like makeup brush cleaners.
Well, you know what's crazy? I took a week off Instagram a while back and I came back and nothing changed. It was still there. It was still the same. My friends were still messaging in the group chat. I had some messages to catch up on. That part was like kind of fun, but like, yeah, like it's not going away if you do decide to take a break. Like, you're not actually going to miss anything. And I do kind of feel like it makes just us as people feel like it's like, oh my God, if I don't check it, like, what if there's news or memes or something that just like I'm going to miss out on? And it feeds into that FOMO and it's not going away. Like, just,
that's so real. Yeah.
You can take a break. It's fine. Switching gears a little bit to the insomnia thing. So what happens when we actually can't turn our brain off? I would actually more specifically like to know, what are some setbacks and superpowers to being a night owl in a society of morning birds?
Well, I think we touched on this earlier, where I kind of don't mind working at night, even though it impacts the quality of work that I do throughout earlier in the day. At nighttime, I feel like I get some of my best ideas. I get a lot more creative. I'm able to kind of power through projects that probably I was not procrastinating, but just like I didn't have the energy for earlier on in the day. I'm able to power through them at night because we have less distractions at that time and I don't need to answer to anybody and I can just like fully zone in. So, I mean, I guess that's a perk, but maybe it's like a matter of retraining my brain and setting up better boundaries during the day, because as a result, I end up being a lot more tired and anxious and low energy throughout the day.
As I mentioned, we're not scientists, but like I'm sure they've done studies on how going to sleep as the sun goes down and waking up as the sun comes up is probably the healthiest for us. I can't confirm that, but it makes sense. However, I don't think it's a bad thing in any way to be, I shouldn't say not a bad thing in any way, but I don't think it's a bad thing to be a night owl. Like, if that's how you get your work done, if that's like what makes you feel good, if that's good enough for your mental health, like, you should continue doing that. Like, it shouldn't be something that just because everyone else does different, you should feel pressure to change. I actually had a mentor once when I first started my business. He was like, but the rest of the world is up at like 7 a.m. Like, how are you going to make sales if you sleep through the time that everyone else is? And I was like, it actually, because I just started my business, I was 22 at the time, I was like, it actually did influence me a little bit, where I was like, I have to set that expectation. I have to wake up early, but it doesn't work that way for me. Like, if I don't fall asleep until 5 a.m., I'm not waking up at 7. Like,
Thank you.
I'm a human. Yeah, I will never be one of the 6 a.m. club or 5 a.m. club or whatever. Like, that's not me.
Thank you.
And it doesn't have to be me. Like, it's totally fine.
No, this is one of my biggest gripes in becoming an entrepreneur. It's like everybody placing their opinions on you on like what your schedule and what your routine should look like. And I mean, maybe it's not them putting their expectations, but it's just there's a lot of comparison out there because everybody's just talking about their self-care routine. Like, self-care culture is like really big. It can also be kind of toxic, but like the grind hustle mentality where it's like I'm CEO mindset. You know, I wake up at 5 a.m. and I take a cold shower and I meditate and I read. And then by like 7:30 a.m., I'm already like emailing and then I'm doing like my cold calls. And, you know, then I get my workout, I might get my pre workout in and then I get my post workout in. Like, it's just like, it's wild. Yeah, that
It's
whole
hustle culture.
CEO, yeah, the whole CEO mentality, that hustle and grind culture, like I cannot. It irks me.
Yeah.
One thing
Go
though
ahead.
that I noticed, sorry,
No, go ahead, go ahead.
one thing that I completely stand for everybody just like creating a routine that works for them.
Yeah.
And one thing that I have started doing recently, because I go through these peaks and valleys of, you know, my healthy routine versus my overworking routine, because I don't have a set bedtime. I've given up on trying to be in bed by midnight. I always
Yeah.
say every year that that's going to be my goal, to like be in bed by midnight on 5 hours, 7 days of the week. And at this point, I'm like, whenever you go to bed, just make sure that you get 7 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
So just set your alarm for whatever like you're going to bed at 3 a.m. Set your alarm for, well, I try to definitely wake up before 10 because that's when a lot of my meetings tend to start. But I at least try to get 7 hours of sleep.
Yeah. If I can help it, I actually don't schedule meetings before 11. Sometimes I do. Sometimes that's just what works in the other person's schedule, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But like if I can help it, I'm not gonna. And like same vibes, if I fall asleep at 5, I'm going to do my best to get as much quality sleep within the time that I have. Sometimes that means you have to still wake up at 9 for a meeting and like you're maybe a little bit miserable, but you know, you just try to go to bed earlier the next night. And like I also, just to your note of like the hustle culture of like the 5 a.m. club and having your day half finished by 7 a.m. and all these things, like this is a mad generalization, but to me that feels very masculine. Like women, they
You
need
said it, not me.
like that's not a bad thing if that does work for you, if that's, you know, a routine that makes you feel good and it's productive for you and you have time to spend with your family and, you know, doing things you love later in the day. Like that's golden for you, but that's not golden for me. I would much rather have a slow morning. I take care of myself morning and make sure I actually eat morning. Is when I have that too high of an expectation for myself, I will skip breakfast and just keep on going until I burn out.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, why does my stomach hurt? Oh, maybe I'm actually hungry. And I really think like after COVID, we've not as a collective, but a lot of people have really shifted into like a feminine way of doing business, and I am 100% here for it. I'm curious, what does like, if you resonate with that concept of like wanting to do things more the feminine way, what does that look like for you?
I think just being easier on yourself and giving yourself a lot more grace,
Yeah.
and being vulnerable, being honest, checking in with yourself, and giving yourself the space to do whatever feels right rather than fall into a specific subsect of culture.
Yeah.
Because, you know, kind of similar to your mentor experience, I had something like that for a little bit. I haven't had the best luck with mentors, except for my business in the streets mentor.
Yeah.
She was awesome. But I had 2 other mentors and they were men, but essentially giving me that same kind of advice, like, oh,
Yeah.
make sure that you have this like very strict routine for yourself. And it's like, no, as an entrepreneur of like, and as a small business owner, it's like my days look so different. Like, how can I expect the exact same thing of myself every single day when my days look so freaking different
Yeah.
every day?
Absolutely. And like, especially you have like a business where creativity lives at the heart, and so do I. And like, there is no okay. there is structure to creativity, but it's not the same kind of structure as like a rigid routine.
Mhm.
Like you have structure to the way that your creativity flows and the way that you seek inspiration and like that type of thing. That can be relatively structured in terms of like identifying patterns. But it's never going to look the exact same every single day. And for me, when I'm scheduling myself, a lot of the time I find like if I set too rigid of an expectation of myself, like I'm going to reach out to 50 people and I'm going to make 30 posts and I'm going to like blah, 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 like very specific things. If my list is too long, I'll get to a point where I feel overwhelmed and I'll just bail on it. It's like I won't get it done. But if I just say like a general statement of like every single day this week, I'm going to put in X number of hours per day, 5 days. That's a lot different for me, where I can ask in the moment what's most necessary to move my business forward, what's most necessary for me to move forward, what skills do I need to accomplish today. Like that has a very different energy than just like every day I do XYZ and it's on a calendar. Like I find it very challenging to fill my calendar up for the month. I actually just do a lot of things on the fly. And that comes with downsides as well. But to me, it allows me to like let go of some of my overworking tendencies. I can also ask
be more flexible.
Yeah. And like to me, that's very feminine, is like allowing for that flexibility, allowing yourself to just like trust yourself in the moment and like not have to push. You can just sit and receive rather than having to push all the time.
I'm a weird in between those because I set those expectations of myself, and I think that comes from like even school days. I don't know, something about an agenda, just like even from elementary school. Like I would get my agenda at the beginning of the year and my planner, and like I'm filling it out, like all the birthdays, all the holidays, any like special projects that I'm working on, anything to do with family. Like I'm what am I doing filling out an agenda and like planning out my life in grade 3? I don't know. But like I've kind of carried out that same mentality throughout my life. Like I have my agenda here, and like every Sunday I fill it out so that I know what's coming down the pipe for the week.
It's pen and paper. I love that. Like it's not just your Google Cal, it's pen and paper. I actually personally I use pen and paper as well.
Oh, I have my calendars as well. Yeah. It's pretty it's pretty bad, but also like necessary for me to kind of comprehend what's going on, because there's so many different things going on in the business. And then also, like I mentioned, we have so many active projects going on at the same time.
Yeah.
So I have that, but at the same time, I don't end up doing half the stuff in there. And I don't know why. Like I put these expectations on myself, and like I get down on myself when I'm not able to accomplish all the things. And here I am telling you about the more feminine way of doing business. It's like being more flexible, but I'm still working on that.
Yeah, and like we're both learners here. Like I'm not an expert in the feminine way, and I also feel that like we all have both. Every single human being on this earth has a masculine side and a feminine side, and when we learn to like use those to our advantage is when just pure magic happens. And that goes for life in general, not just business. But I do the same thing where I fill out a pen and paper agenda. I'll write out like I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And it's almost like imagining what my perfect week would look like. And then I do half of it. And it's like sometimes the expectation is just bigger than what you can accomplish in reality. But other times what you accomplish in reality is like what you actually needed to accomplish, not just like in your head what you thought would be the best. And that's fine.
I love that. Preach.
As long as you're, moving your life forward, making your bag, and your clients are satisfied, like that's all that matters, right?
Yeah. Moving the needle a little bit doesn't have to be. Yeah, it doesn't have to go from 0 to 100. Going back to what I had previously mentioned, like you don't have to be an overnight success. Like enjoy the journey, take it slower.
Yeah. So for this next question, I don't necessarily have an answer to it. I wonder if you have an answer to it. What is it about nighttime that inspires creativity so much?
it kind of goes back to what I discussed before. It's not having all the expectations of the day on you. Um, things are a little bit more still, a little bit more quiet, darker, moodier, vibier.
That fire,
And
like you mentioned, with like having to have something finished before your day's done.
yeah, and just being able to set the mood, cater the mood more towards what I want. And like, I don't know, like I'm usually not doing admin work at midnight, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
usually, like you mentioned too, you can pursue all your creative passions during that time. Like, why do you choose that time? Like, it just feels more settling
Yeah.
to do that kind of stuff at night rather than me sending emails or like dealing with contracts and invoices.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, it's like there's nobody talking to you, nobody demanding your attention.
Yeah.
No like cars on the road or like people talking around you. No phone calls,
Yeah.
just less
Yeah.
distractions.
For me,
You
it
have the
has all.
space to create.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it all has to do with like sensory input and output. Like if I'm painting or crocheting or doing something that's like physically creative, it's like very repetitive motions. It's like if I'm crocheting, it's like it's actually a lot of math. I don't know if people realize that. It's a lot of counting and multiplying, and it's just like that can be so cathartic. But it also
So many of
makes.
my friends crochet. My sister just got into it too. And it's like, actually, funny that you mentioned that because so she came over last week and I was up late working on something. And I was
Yeah.
at the kitchen table on my laptop. And it wasn't until like maybe 2 a.m. when I realized like she's literally sitting next to me at the kitchen table. We haven't said anything to each other. And she's just crocheting. She's also a teacher, so she has the summer off.
Yeah.
But
I love that.
I think it happened like 2 or 3 nights while she was here. Like I would just be on
Yeah.
my laptop working and she's just crocheting into the night.
That's my favorite kind of bonding though. Like me and one of my friends, we do co-working sessions where like during the day we'll be on this Google Meet and we'll just like mute ourselves and do our thing.
I love
Um,
those.
it's freaking awesome. It's like kind of like same vibes as like doing your homework in the library with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And like I love it. However, sometimes we find ourselves working into the night and like sometimes like she'll have more to do and I'm kind of at my limit, so I'll just switch over to my nighttime routine and I'm just like she's typing away, tip-tapping away, and I'm just like crocheting next to her. And it's like freaking awesome. Me and my boyfriend do that too, where sometimes he'll play video games and I'll do like some painting or something like that. And it's like, it's just the best kind of bonding to exist in the same space but not have to talk. I really, really love that. It also makes me curious, not necessarily about the bonding and co-working thing, but more so about like working, doing creative things into the night. And this is not something I have figured out yet, but it makes me wonder about how I can add more of that energy into the day. Like, what if I had a creativity time at like 7? Would that cure my sleep issues? That's something that I actually want to experiment with and see if like if I do start to have like maybe a creative routine before bed, and I do that earlier than starting at 2 a.m., would I be able to then fall asleep sooner because I'm sort of spending that remaining energy that's left in my brain?
Yeah, I think some of my happiest times in life were when I would work on a puzzle or like work on a paint by numbers before I went to bed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
What's your sleep time routine?
that's a really great question. I wanted to ask like similarly. So,
Sorry,
um,
I'm taking over host duties.
no, I really enjoy like the back and forth. Thank you so much for asking that question. So the first thing that I'll do is like I'm not a makeup girly, but like first thing I'll do is I'll just like splash some water on my face and put on some pajamas. My mother has taught me so well about the value in like soft things. So like if I have like soft slippers or like a soft nightgown or something, like it really kind of switches my brain to like it's bedtime now. And after I get into like bedtime clothes, then I'll just like honestly just get into bed, and then I'll start with something creative. That's my favorite thing to do when I'm going to bed, is like either painting or crocheting. Those are my two main hobbies at the moment. There's times where I'll just kind of like watch Netflix or something like that, or be on YouTube, and it's like I'll watch and I won't have my creative hobbies going at the same time. What I love about those hobbies is that they're quiet and I can watch TV at the same time. But like I find like if I don't have them, I can kind of start, or like I don't know when to like turn off the TV. I don't know when to just be like one more episode.
And my parents set me up for failure in that sense, because growing up, the TV was always on, like 24/7. And I don't know, my parents were like advocates for like putting your kid in front of the TV and letting them just like zone out. So I had a TV in my room since I was a kid, and I would literally have it on 24/7.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe like kickstarted my bad sleep habits.
Probably.
To this day, I still will I will like throw on YouTube videos until I fall asleep, until like I absolutely pass out. But like I've been trying to get better at it by like doing things like putting on the sleep timer and turning down the brightness all the way.
Yeah. My sister, she can't fall asleep without TV. Like that's her bedtime.
My white noise.
Yeah, for me actually, I have a fan, and like that's my white noise. I love my fan, and I can't sleep without it.
I got mine going back there too.
Yeah, it's a lovely invention, but something that I've been working on doing is like, and you actually brought this up earlier, that there's a moment where like when you're doing your nighttime working, you'll have like an hour where it's like my brain is telling me it's sleep time, and you choose to push through that. There's times when I push through that as well, and then after that moment passes, it can be very challenging to find it again. I've been working on honoring that moment. If my brain is like, I'm starting to melt, then it's like, okay, you're melting. Let's turn off close the laptop, go to sleep, close my eyes, etc. And something else I do too with like the TV time is I rewatch things a lot. Like I've seen The Office, I think like 9 times, give or take.
Oh girl, I've rewatched Gossip Girl. I've rewatched Everybody Loves Raymond. I've rewatched Jersey Shore. Like those are my and Hannah Montana. Like okay, so my taste in TV is like wildly ranging. But like so I rewatch those shows so often to the point where like I know what's the next episode. I know like line for line pretty much every single episode. But it's like super comforting. I think that's what we were going to bring up before I interrupted you.
No, you're fine. Exactly. Like it is very comforting. And like I do have these comfort shows that I just keep on watching. And I find that also helps, like if I want to fall asleep, then it's like I know what's coming next. I'm not actually missing anything. I've seen this before, so I can just either sleep through it or turn it off and not feel as like attached. Yeah, so that's like maybe a little tidbit for anybody if you also struggle with sleep. I wonder if the audience resonates with that as well. But
yeah, I started. I always have a hard time starting a new show because I'm like, oh my gosh, like if I get sucked in, then it's a wrap for me. I'm gonna be losing sleep over this, which is what's been happening with me in Lost lately.
Yeah. Lost, like the show?
Yeah, the show Lost. I'm now on season 4.
I love that show too. Is this your first time watching it, or are you rewatching this one?
My first time, yeah, and losing sleep over it.
It's a great show. I don't blame you at all. So another question for you here, and this is like an absolutely no judgment question. You can answer this however it fits you. What does a healthy sleep relationship look like?
I brought up this tip before. It's just making sure that you do get enough sleep and you listen to your body.
Right. Making sure you get at least 7 hours kind of vibes.
Yeah, or whatever works for you. Like I know some people who function completely fine on 5 hours. And then also being flexible to understand like what's the best sleep routine for you. I remember super early on in my business, I was doing this like business boot camp thing. And we had a speaker come in, and he mentioned, and this is wild to me to this day, but he mentioned that he actually doesn't do like a full sleep in the night. Like he'll take multiple 2-hour naps throughout the day, but they're like set times.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I think that's actually wildly unhealthy.
She's like, I'm not a doctor, but you know what? We're going to put our foot down here.
No, like I'm not a doctor, but I do like research, and our body goes through a full REM cycle every 4 hours. So, like, if you fall asleep and you're asleep for 8 hours, you get 2 REM cycles. And that's why they say 8 hours is the, like, optimum amount of time for sleep. And, like, within that REM cycle, like, you have to be in a REM state of sleep in order for your brain to actually heal. Our brain is made of, like, fat and liquid. And, like, your brain can just shrivel up without having the right amount of REM sleep. Like, that's terrible for somebody to come and be like, yes, this is the best way to be successful. Like, I hope he was at least framing it in a way of like, this is what I do and what works for me.
I mean, he was kind of giving the toxic CEO mentality vibe, but like, I just thought it was interesting. I knew that could never be me. It sounded insane, but I'm like, well, if that works for you, bro, then like,
get it.
Yeah. Get it where you can. You say that like you have 4 to 5 2-hour naps a day. It's also kind of like when I see people taking naps in the middle of the day, I'm like, is this refreshing to you? Like, do you actually feel anything from this?
Yes, I can say.
Okay.
The waking up with like just a dry mouth and like crusty eyes, it's my favorite feeling.
Not knowing what time of day it is or what year it is.
What's my name?
Yeah.
On a side note, 4-hour REM cycles is the standard that the scientist, medical people have decided is our standard through their research, of course. However, as Monique mentioned, it's super important to know your body on an individual level. This means that I believe that the 4-hour mark, that is a general median standpoint that they can use to make recommendations around people's sleep health. Some individuals might find that their REM cycle is best within 4.5 hours. Others, maybe it's 3 hours. And I think that this is almost the same way as, let's say, when the doctor recommends you drink 8 glasses of water. Realistically, a 6'5" person who is, 250 pounds is going to need a much different intake of water compared to a 5'3" person who is maybe like 115 pounds. And everybody is different, and they can standardize things in order to make communication easier, but that doesn't always mean that it's a rule. I also know for myself, there have been phases in my life where I've needed more sleep than others. But then there's also been phases in my life where I could thrive off of very little sleep, and it just ultimately all depends. At the end of the day, we all have different sleep needs, and it's important to craft your routine around what works best for you. And that being said, I don't think a soul on this earth can experience a complete REM cycle within 2 hours. But I digress. What are some like tips and tricks that we can share for people who do struggle with sleep? And none of our tips and tricks are going to be like just don't sleep and take 2-hour naps.
Yeah. I think setting reasonable expectations for yourself, giving yourself grace, giving yourself the space to add in that aspect of self-care into your life and like pay attention to your body. I think one way of managing my to-do list or managing my expectations is by keeping my to-do list to like 3 major things a day.
Yeah.
And like doing an audit. So that same agenda, like I look at it and I'm like, okay, well, you wrote down 10 things here. Obviously, you're not going to get all that done. So let's choose the 3 most important things.
Yeah.
And then like setting boundaries too on things like correspondence or admin, things that were like you're going back and forth, like setting boundaries on that. Because I know as business owners, that can take up a lot of our time. And then we end up shifting a lot of our other priorities. And then it just ends up being like a snowball effect. So Yeah. Setting those boundaries. Like for me, I have specific hours where I take client meetings. On Mondays, it's during the morning.
Yeah.
On Wednesdays, it's during the afternoon.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
For me, like the best tip or advice that I could give to anybody who struggles with sleep, and I say this lightly because I still struggle with sleep, is to have an actual bedtime routine. As soon as I turn on my fan and put on my jammies, my brain is like, it's sleep time. And another thing too that we have mentioned, but I just want to reiterate again, is making sure that you honor your body. Like I do want to say if your brain is like, hey, I'm sleepy now, you probably shouldn't push through that. Like that's your body telling you that it's sleepy and it should be sleeping.
It should be respected. Yes.
It should be respected. But that being said, like that is not a statement loaded with shame. I 100% respect the drive that it takes to operate a business. And some like once in a while, you do have to put yourself on the back burner for the sake of getting your bag, making sure that your rent is paid and your people are paid and that your clients are satisfied. That is sometimes just like this much more important than your own sleep schedule. That's fine as long as you're making sure to take care of yourself the best that you can, like 80% of the time. Nobody's perfect. Sometimes you're going to lose sleep for a client, and that's fine. But if
Yeah.
80% of the time you're not, that's golden.
Yeah. If I can plug somebody else, one of my clients, she is a leadership coach, Stephanie Woodward. I think her business is called, not I think, I know her business is called because she's a client, Agency to Change.
Cool.
And she wrote a book and it talks a lot about how in entrepreneurship, like you probably won't maintain the same routine every single day, and that's completely okay. Every day is going to look different for you as long as you're still prioritizing self-care in some way or the other.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you know, as an entrepreneur, sometimes you guys stay up super late to finish a client project. Like it is what it is.
Yeah.
You got to make a little bit of you got to make a few sacrifices, and that's life in general. Like
Yeah.
can you imagine having the same routine every single day for the rest of your life?
That'd be so boring.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
would lose my mind. Um, Now, I do have one final question here on my list. Is there anything unconventional that you use to help you sleep? I know we talked about TV, that might be a bit unconventional. Sometimes I lean on the green stuff. That does tend to help as well. But yeah, I'm just curious.
Ooh, um, I feel like sleep culture has become so big lately. Like everybody's trying all these different things. It's like,
Yeah.
did we as a society need all these different like pills and tools to sleep back in the day, or like is this become like a new form of capitalism? Anyways, I digress.
Don't get me started, bro. Big pharma can bank on our tech addictions.
Yeah, for real though, because I now have like 4 different types of sleeping pills. So like the
Yeah,
melatonin tablets, the melatonin gummies, magnesium pills. I recently started trying this new sleep aid called Adrenal Chill,
interesting.
and it actually is like pretty good. Yeah, so these are tools that like I've used. I wouldn't swear by them, but you know, they're kind of helpful. They're aids. Oh my gosh. A weighted blanket
Oh, yeah.
changed the game for me. Changed the game. When I tell you the best sleep, because you brought up REM. I realized when I was wearing a Fitbit that I wasn't getting a lot of REM, or like I was waking up like even if I was technically asleep for or I was in bed asleep for 10 hours, it would be like, oh, you only slept for like 6.5 because you were tossing and turning most of the time. So
Yeah.
that's why I would wake up feeling like groggy and whatever. But a weighted blanket, that the way that thing throws me into REM immediately as soon as I close my eyes.
I
So
love
I love that. And yeah, the TV, turning the brightness down, turning the volume down, putting it on sleep timer, putting your phone away from your reach, and yeah, having tea. I have my decaffeinated green tea. and then I brush my teeth and go to bed. Just like doing a few small things to really indicate to yourself, like, hey, this is the time for you to settle down.
Yeah, absolutely. Something else too, it's not unconventional by any means, but like in my family, we have a very strong culture of like dinner coffee. Like dinner's finished, then you have a coffee. It's just like,
I love that. I am a caffeine addict.
It's so tasty. I love coffee too. And like, I find for me, like, I don't know if it's like a dash of ADHD or maybe because like we do have this bedtime coffee type of culture in my family. I don't know. But coffee makes me sleepy. It doesn't make me buzzed in any type of way. Some people, they drink coffee and they're like bouncing. Not me.
What's your family background, if you don't mind me asking?
I think the bedtime coffee is a very Newfie thing.
Okay.
They kind of have a mealtime schedule like hobbits, respectfully. They have like 4 or 5 different meals a day, and then one of those is bedtime tea. But with like, I'm not a tea drinker. My family's not necessarily tea drinkers, so it'll be bedtime coffee. And for any non-Canadians, Newfie is Newfoundland. It's like a maritime province in Canada, and it's like an isolated culture from the rest of Canada. It's lovely. I'm so proud to be Newfie. On a side note, I want to clarify this quick because if you don't know Newfies, this could come off as a bit rude. You know that scene in Lord of the Rings when Merry and Pippin are wanting to take a meal break and are horrified to learn that Aragorn doesn't know about second breakfast and 11 seas and all their other meals? Mind my terrible accent impression. Or when Samwise Gamgee is talking to Gollum about potatoes, boil 'em, mash 'em, stick 'em in a stew. These scenes always make me chuckle because it's very Newfie-esque. In Newfoundland, hardworking farmers and fishermen typically have breakfast, lunch, dinner, supper, and bed lunch. It's one less meal than the hobbits have, but regardless, it's a gem of a Newfie fact. And another little Newfie fact, because my Newfie heritage is very close to my heart, is that they are very Irish. I've actually heard Irish people describe Newfies as right feral Irish pirates. And they're lovely, lovely people. They're so kind and they're so fun to be around. And I was actually recently learning about Newfoundland fairies. And I think that it's so cool that Newfoundland has their own lore around fairies because fairies originated from Ireland. So of course they would have their own fairy lore. Anyway, this was a random Newfoundland ramble. Let's get back to the episode. Just making sure that like, even though coffee makes me sleepy, I think long term it still has an impact on sleep. So like, not having coffee I try to finish my coffee by like maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I like to sip slowly. However, caffeine has a half-life of I think around like 6 hours, so it keeps building up in your system for about 6 hours. After that 6 hours, it starts to go lower, so you're less affected by it. Gotta finish your coffee in time and not have another one, even though I love it.
Yeah, I think that helps me as well because I was drinking 3-4 coffees a day. Yeah. And I do think that, like, even though you are tired, I think your nervous system is still like, it's like still going, which impacts your sleep. I mean, you really are educated in this. So. I do crazy amounts of research. Like, that's a lot of what I do when I can't sleep is just like, why can't I sleep? Tell me what's wrong with my body. Meanwhile, I'm on Temu looking at makeup brush cleaners. I love that though. That's so funny. I love that so much. Now, just to wrap us up here, I would really love to say that I really enjoyed this conversation. I feel like we had a really lovely back and forth of just like differences and commonalities, and that's like that's where magic happens. I really loved learning from you and just hearing your experience of entrepreneurship as well as overworking and sleep. This was a lovely chat, and if you're ever down to come back on the show, I would be more than grateful to have you. So thank you so much for your time. Likewise, thank you so much for having me. I really did enjoy this conversation too. It's such a good break from the regular business speak, having talking about the specific aspect of entrepreneurship. I think it was an important conversation that I've been meaning to have with somebody for a while. I appreciate that, and I'm glad that you found value in that as well. Just to close this out, I would also really like to thank any listeners who have joined us. If you do have any questions, comments, concerns, anything,
feel free to reach out to either Monique or myself. I would love to hear from you. And if you struggle with sleep problems, if you're listening to this and it's like 2 a.m. where you are, like, go to bed, bro. Just try to go to bed, listen to your body. That's the main thing that I want to take away from this episode. It's listening to my body more and just getting into that state of flow of creativity and sleep and allowing them to coexist, and that I can have one and the other and it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. But yeah.
Absolutely. Couldn't say it better myself.
I would also really love to ask, can you repeat where anybody listening, where they can find you, if they have questions, feedback, concerns, comments, anything, or if they would like to work with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to work with us, if you have a photography or video project in mind for your business or brand, or you're just an entrepreneur looking for some headshots, so you can reach out to us. domproductions.ca is our website. It's also our Instagram handle, and you can find us on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn, Monique Hutson. And you can also follow our studio page, thestu.ca. That's our website and our Instagram.
Beauty.
We rent it out for photo shoots, video shoots, and events, small events.
Thank you so much for being here with me, and if you enjoyed today's topic, now is a great moment to subscribe. If you have any feedback about today's topic, please reach out to my social channels. I help creative entrepreneurs market their creations in a way that feels authentic. I have a self-study marketing program that covers basic and advanced marketing concepts with 9 modules and activity sheets. I also sell content creation templates to help you manage your social media with unlimited content creation ideas. And I also offer one-on-one marketing consulting services. Check out my socials and my website to learn more. If you're interested in working with me, please reach out via email. So that's social media if you're reaching out for my podcast, and email if you're reaching out for business. All relevant contact links are in the description, and thanks again for listening. Cheers for now. That was pretty good.